Welcome to today's training, how to stop letting anger, anxiety, and overreaction destroy your relationships. So welcome to today's journey. I'm really excited to get started. And today we're going to be looking at anger. We're going to be talking about anger, how we respond. So we're going to be looking at the problem. We're going to be looking at effective communication skills. We're going to be looking at emotional regulation tools. And we're going to put this together at the end as well. Why does this matter? Well, there is a pandemic at the moment of, disengagement with families, and there's never been a worse time of research shows that unmanaged conflict is the leading predictor of relationship breakdown. And we're seeing this a lot, especially with everything going on in the world at the moment. Now, when we can't communicate effectively during difficult moments, that's when we create disconnection rather than connection. We create a bridge between ourselves and the other person. So it's a really, really important training session so we can get more in control of how we show up. And so my promise to you today is by the end of this session, you're going to go away with practical tools to transform anger into connection. If you're the person on the receiving end of that anger, you're going to have some insights to understand that person better as well. So let's look at understanding anger in relationships. Let's have a sip of water. Anger can often be self-preservation, self-protection. So it often masks a person's vulnerability. When we feel misunderstood or unheard, anger becomes our emotional armor, and this is what we project onto others. It's also a symptom of unmet needs. So when we have an anger outburst, this is an unmet need. Maybe somebody's not respecting you. Maybe somebody's not understanding you. So this is the subconscious reaction to that. And sometimes it's stress. Sometimes a person is so overwhelmed that that's their only release, to project how they're feeling internally onto the people, usually the closest people to them as well. So let's now have a look at the destruction anger cycle. Now, what happens if we look at this in a loop, in a cycle? We have something happen. So we have an event that happens that makes a person feel threatened or overwhelmed. We then get the emotional reaction. Now, some people might withdraw, some people might get defensive, some people might get angry. And then this leads to disconnection. It pushes people away. They start to build walls and barriers around them from us. And then it creates that distance. And then the cycle repeats itself. So when this doesn't get resolved, tension builds until the next trigger event. And slowly but surely, that relationship breaks down. And that's not what we want. So let's look at the true cost of disconnection. And I want to share this with you because it is kind of like get stuck in a habit loop of destructive behaviors that don't connect you. Let's see what it costs in reality. If you're in a personal relationship, it will cost intimacy and trust. In any relationship, it's going to cost you trust. Small issues easily become major conflicts because there's all that those emotions going on from their last time unresolved, feelings and emotions that are stacking. And emotional walls are built from the people around us as well. And the person will become at some point detached from you. Now, for your personal health, this can cause chronic stress. It can affect your sleep, anxiety, depression symptoms, and just a general dissatisfaction with life. And remember, when you're stressed and you're angry, your cortisol in your body heightens, which means that every time you go to a heightened state of stress, your cortisol rises, which means that it then triggers inflammation in your body. And if you're pretty tense and angry for a lot of the time, then you're going to get a lot of inflammation in your body, and inflammation leads to disease. So this is really, really important. This isn't fluff. This can really seriously affect your health without you realizing. So let's look at a personal story of transformation that I wanted to share with you, just to give you a feel for what this looks like in implementation. So this client fed back, I used to think my anger showed strength, that raising my voice meant that I was standing up for myself. But watching my partner's face shut down every time, seeing my children flinch when I got frustrated, I realized my anger was actually revealing my deepest weaknesses. I didn't know how to connect when it really, really mattered. And this client's breakthrough came when they learned that beneath anger, the needs for unmet needs for understanding, safety, and connection. They explored their triggers from, growing up, and some of the things that had happened for them. We looked at their inner child, and today they describe their relationship as stronger than ever. What about the myths? What about the myths that keep us stuck? Some people believe that anger shows strength, you know, it shows that they are somebody, they're significant. Some people feel, well, it's just who I am. This is a lot of feedback I get. Well, it's just who I've always been. But anger patterns are learned. It's not who you are, it's just a learned pattern. Some people come to me saying, they make me angry, but we have to take responsibility. You have to take responsibility for however you're showing up. I need to express my feelings. And we do need to express, but in a healthy fashion. So, how does anger really feel? How does it feel for the person that's projecting it? Well, they feel misunderstood, they feel unheard and frustration, and nothing seems to matter in that point. And then they go into the place of anger and they're left with guilt and shame. And, the terrible realization that they've hurt people around them and their loved ones. And for the person on the receiving end, what does that look like? Where they feel, they're walking on eggshells. They don't know what's going to set that person off. So, they've started shutting down their feelings too. I want to share a real couple's journey with you to get you, to give you some food for thought here. And maybe you're going to resonate with this. Maybe some of this does resonate with you. So, this is Sarah and Mark, and they've been married now for 12 years. And they had started to have frequent arguments, and they had a teenage daughter. And, the teenage daughter was that concerned at this point of, hearing them and listening to them, that she asked, are you getting a divorce? And this was one of the situations where it had come to where they started to think something needs to give, and particularly so Mark. Now, what Mark didn't realize was that the energy that he was giving off with the anger and the frustration, and seeing the damage, the tears in his loved one's eyes, when that happened, he started to realize. Now, what had happened in this situation was he was bringing a lot of stress home from work. Now, I don't know about you, but sometimes our jobs can be the biggest stressors for us, and then when we get home, we can't upload it in the office. So when we get home, who's going to get it? Our nearest and dearest. And so through learning communication, effective communication and emotional regulation, they were able to work out the root cause of Mark's anger. And Sarah was able to express herself on why she had been withdrawing from him. And together they were able to build on their relationship and make it really strong. And so, what's the ripple effect of anger, frustration, not managing it? What is the ripple effect? Well, it affects our children because they learn from us. It affects your friendships because if in one context of your life, one relationship isn't working, it's going to affect others. It's going to affect your work relationships as well, and also your community, because maybe you're the person that's involved in helping people in your community. Maybe there's things that you do, and now think you're really struggling in a relationship, you've withdrawn from that. So the ripple effect is that it has a knock-on effect to everybody that is in your life, whether it's the person that you're being angry towards, but other people in different friendship contexts as well. So that's really important to understand because we need to understand what our behavior looks like. So why do people get stuck in these patterns? Well, it's a habit loop. So our brains create these pathways. When we repeat a behavior over and over again, we rewire the brain. And, when we get a response, maybe we've been angry at someone and they've responded and they've given us what we wanted. It reinforces to our brains, to the wiring, that anger results in getting something what we want. It gets people to respond to us in the way that we want. And this is why with children, we can clearly see that their past experiences have created their behaviors. Also, lack of awareness. People don't understand the impact of their behavior. And this was Mark. He was quite stuck for a while because until he saw the effect on his loved ones, until he physically saw that, excuse me. Excuse me, I've got a bad throat at the moment, so bear with me. But usually that when when we get this awareness, it's usually quite, cause some significant, has a significant impact on the people around us already. So it can be lack of awareness, shame and pride, you feel shame. You don't want to kind of feel inferior, that what you're doing is wrong. So we kind of don't even think about it. And also feeling vulnerable. Because how vulnerable is it to sit in an arena and own up and say, I've done something I'm not proud of? But actually, it's the most powerful thing that you can do. When you step in the arena and you said, I did this, I'm not proud, and I want to fix this. It's one of the most powerful steps that you can take to rebuilding connections. And so let's introduce you to the screen framework. And the screen framework is a six-step framework, and it starts off with self-awareness. This is where, unless you have self-awareness, you cannot shift your behavior. Always start with self-awareness, effective communication, how to regulate those emotions, how to have empathy, not just for others, but for yourself as well. Because it's easy to kind of beat yourself up and live in the thoughts of what you've done wrong. But we want to acknowledge what we've done and move forward, but we don't want to sit there. So it's about having empathy for yourself, experiencing the power of emotional mastery. You're going to love this, and building new healthy connections. It's a really, really powerful framework that's science backed. Now, I'm going to share with you how the framework is going to work for you. Now, what I want to do is I want to pull out two parts of the framework because I only have an hour or so with you. When I pull out two areas that you really need to master. And so I'm giving you two key areas of the framework. As we know, self-awareness is key, is gold. We have to start with that. But what next? What next? So let's have a look at communication and emotional regulation. So we're going to start with communication. Now, communication equals connection. The quality of our communication always and will always determine our relationships. And let's look at the power of language. Words that can escalate in a situation of an exchange. You never help me around the house. You always show up late. That's ridiculous. Don't be silly. But instead of saying you always or you never, I noticed that you're a little bit distracted and I'm not getting the support that I feel I need. It seems like you're tired or distracted, and it would be nice to have more support. We're not, so what we're doing with our language here is we're using language that builds rapport, builds connection, and we're replacing it with what used to disconnect us. That's ridiculous. Don't be silly. Let's reframe that. Help me understand what's going on for you. Calm down, you're overreacting. I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed at the moment. Can we discuss this? Is now a good time for you? Here we go again. Can we pause? Can we restart this conversation? Fine, whatever. I really want to work this out with you. Do you see those words that connect? How they're so very powerful. And what we're not doing here, what we're not doing here is we're not trying to tell somebody that they're wrong. When we're trying to build connection, the last thing you want to do is tell somebody that they're wrong. Every word we choose will either build a bridge or disconnect us. So it's really important we get this right. And let's look at some common communication traps. How focused do you get on the blame game? Focusing on who's at fault rather than how to solve what's going on. Do you ever mind read? You think of something that you're going to do on the weekend, and then in your head, they're going to do it, the person's going to do it too, because that's what you were thinking, but you haven't actually communicated it yet. That can create breakdown of communication because you're putting on an expectation on somebody when you haven't even had a conversation. Kitchen sinking is bringing up the past, bringing up past mistakes and using it in an argument. And that's really not good. And also the silent treatment, withdrawing completely from communication. And now it might be one of these resonates with you. It might be there's a number of these that resonate with you. But what it is now is that you're getting self-aware and you can start looking at ways that we can really shift that as well. So let's now have a look at the art of deep listening. We don't listen, we don't hear somebody and be thinking in our heads, well, what are we going to say? And be waiting to speak. How many times have you had a conversation and somebody's talking to you and you're not listening? You're too busy thinking what you're going to say, or you've got a thought in your mind of what you want to say, and that's all you're focused on, so you can't hear anything. So It's listening to understand and it's putting aside your agenda and truly understanding the person. That's not to discredit what's important to you, but in that moment, the way the way that we build connection is we put our agenda aside and listen and lean in. And what happens is that person does the same for us. Reflect what you hear. So give clarity to the person because that shows that you heard them, you listened and heard, and you understand them. So what I'm hearing is that you're a little bit overwhelmed at the moment and that you could do with some help. Is that correct? So validate their experience. You don't have to agree, but acknowledge. I understand that you're feeling this way, you know, and I want to understand things from how you're feeling. Straight away, that opens the doors for an exchange, you know. Instead of saying you're overreacting, you're saying you're focusing on them and you're validating their experience, and it's gold and it's a game changer. And ask curious questions as well. Help me understand. Help me understand what would help you better now. Help me understand, when you come home from work, what I can do to help. Remember, we're focusing on them right now, and that's how we build connection. So, speaking skills that build connection, use I statements, you know, um, instead of I feel overwhelmed when the house is messy, instead of you never clean up, you never help out. And be clear. One of the biggest, one of the biggest factors in a breakdown of communication is that you're not clear with each other. What I need is help with some planning for the weekend, rather than expecting that they're going to show up at the weekend and help you out. Share appreciation. Balance difficult conversations with specific acknowledgements. I really appreciated when you took the children to school this morning. I really appreciated when you took my dry cleaning or picked it up from the dry cleaning for me. And own your part as well. I acknowledge I was really defensive yesterday. I'm sorry. I recognize that I was tired yesterday and I wasn't showing up as my best self. So it's really important that you own things that you do that are less than authentic, but the fact that we go in and recognize it shows it humanizes you, it connects you. And let's look at the big golden rule of communication. So, did you know that only 7% of how you communicate is verbal? 38% is your tonality, and 55% is your body language. So if you've ever felt that you've said the right things, but a person took it a different way and you're feeling absolutely confused and you don't get it, that's because your communication wasn't congruent. Have you ever had somebody say something but then shake their head at the same time? So, oh, it's really, really lovely to see you, and they're not congruent. Now, what won't happen is that it may not be that you notice the head shaking and that you're conscious of, them shaking their head. But what your brain will pick up on is that something doesn't align. So when that happens, or it could be the body language, oh yes, it's really nice to see you, and their arms across and that's not congruent. So when a person, their brain recognizes that something's off, what that does is that reduces the opportunity for any kind of rapport with you. They're not quite sure what's happened for them, but they know something is out of sync. And do you know, if you've ever met somebody and you say, yeah, but something was a bit off. I didn't quite, I didn't quite gel with them. That's because they were incongruent, So your verbal communication and your tonality and your body language must align. So let's have a look what those, reading nonverbal signs, let's have a look what they look like. So arms crossing, um, being turned away, hands on hips, another one. And sometimes this body language is a way to kind of protect ourselves when we're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit shy, but it can also give off a different vibe as well. It can give off an air of arrogance that you're not listening. So it can be taken very, very differently from how you're feeling, so you have to make sure that you're aware of your tonality and your body language as well. Your facial expressions are a massive giveaway. So if you're having a conversation with them and you're kind of having that bit of feeling that you're not gelling, and you're going to express it if you're not mindful. So you're going to give away that you're not really happy talking to that person. So you have to be really careful. Eye contact, staring at the floor, looking away. Yes, yes, that's wonderful. Like if I'm not looking at you, if I'm looking over here and talking to you, some point you're going to switch off and go, Maria, like, what is the point? What is the point of even listening to you? Because you're not even looking, you're not even showing me your face and showing me who you are and what you're about. And open gestures as well. It's important that we express, and we can express with our hands. We can be open, we got relaxed shoulders, we're not all tensed up. These things count. It's really important we get that right. And also, don't overlook those tiny micro connection moments. The checking in. Maybe you send a text. How's your day going? Are you enjoying your lunch? you know, a touch of the hand if it's an intimate relationship, you know, um, let me know. Text me when you got home so I know you got home safe. You know, a hug. No, I don't know about you, but you really get when somebody wants to give you a hug. There's a hug and there's a hug, isn't there? When somebody really cares about you because you feel that hug. It's tight, it's held. There's an extra time. And I hadn't seen my friend on Monday. We caught up, I hadn't seen her for since August. And unfortunately that was my dad's funeral. So it was a different experience of us together. And so I saw her for the first time. And since then, mom has had a stroke. And so we've been texting and staying in touch because we're not local. When we hugged and we hugged for a long time. And it was a tight hug. And then we hugged again before we let each other go. That's like, I connect with you. I care about you. I missed you. I'm here for you. So don't ever overlook the power of that hug. So if you're giving a hug, don't never half-heartedly give a hug. Give a real hug. Let them know. Be vulnerable. Let that person know you really care about them because it really, really matters. So let's look at communication in action. So let's look at Sarah and Mark and the destructive pattern that they used to have. You never help me with the children's homework. I have to do everything myself. Mark would say, that's not true. I've helped Tom with his maths last week. I do help. And Sarah would respond, months. You know, what relevance is that in months? You know, you just don't care. And he'd go, fine, then do it all on your own. And that was the general exchange. Doing the work. Sarah now responds with, I'm feeling overwhelmed, you know, can we find a way to share this? Now, Mark's not feeling judged, so he's not defensive. He's not getting his back up. I didn't realize you were feeling overwhelmed. What would be most helpful? Do you see the difference here? Sarah responds, maybe we could take different subjects or alternate evenings. And Mark says, that sounds reasonable. Let's work out a schedule. So now they're working together, not against each other. And it's not tit for tat. You don't do this, I do everything. It's about, this is how I'm feeling. Can you help me? There's no judgment there. That's just sharing feelings. So, can you see how significant our communication is and that it can either escalate or build connection and get us the help that we really need? And you can use this in any context of your relationships. So, what I want you to do, I want you to do is identify your pattern. Think about your last argument. What phrase or tone did you use that escalated a situation? Now, I want you to write down one connecting phrase. So instead of you always interrupt me, you know, is it okay if I just finish what I was saying? See how that hits differently. Is it all right if I finish this and then I'm really I'm gonna listen to you. I really want to hear what you say as well. But is it all right if I can just finish this first and share this with you? It hits differently and it opens the door for connection. And commit to doing this, practicing this, because it's really going to start to create new habits. And remember, the behavior that we repeat over time, it just becomes natural. You know, it's something that we just go to. It's not something that we have to be mindful of constantly once we've built that habit. So if you're doing that for the next month and you're just practicing that every day, it's just going to be secondary to how you respond. So let's have a look at connection starts with how you speak and listen, because that is the crux of it, you know. Connection starts with how you speak and listen. And let me just get a bit of water. When we choose curiosity over being defensive, when we choose understanding over being right, when we choose working together over competition, when we create an emotional safety that allows us to flourish together, even during those difficult conversations, that's how we build a connection. That's how we build strong, healthy relationships because we become a safe place for the other person. They know that they can come to us and share, and that is going to be calm and intentional. And we know that that person is going to listen to us and take on board and reflect. And we're going to work this out. It's not going to escalate. It's not going to end up in anger, frustration, not talking, cutting each other off. That's not healthy. And that can only continue for a small amount of time before you just totally cut each other off. So I hope that really resonates with you. And now I want to take you onto emotional regulation. And this isn't about suppressing feelings, it's about the ability to manage those emotions. Ex feel those emotions, but choose how you show up when you get challenged. And it is one of the most powerful skills I call it a life skill, and I believe that we should be teaching from the moment we talk to our babies. We should be teaching this. We should be teaching this to toddlers. We should be teaching this when children go to nursery, when they go to school. We should be teaching it in the workplace because how many people, how many people cannot emotionally regulate? Have you ever saw a person at the checkout? You know, they're at the checkout and they can't get their money back on something and they let rip for the whole world to hear. And it's so uncomfortable. Have you ever seen somebody in road rage or on social media? These are people that can't self-regulate. The couple in the street that are shouting at each other. Again, they haven't mastered the art of emotional regulation. Let's get started. So, when our nervous system is activated, you know, our ability to stay calm and intentional disappears. So, it's learning to recognize the states, you know, in the moment when we're getting triggered is a really good awareness tool to have. So, for instance, do you go to the flight response? Do you withdraw, shut down, give the silent treatment? Do you go to the fight response? So, are you aggressive? Are you become critical, defensive, or are you so focused on winning that conversation, that argument, sorry, that you will do anything to get your point across? Are you the person that just doesn't, that freezes? Because we all respond differently, we're all wired differently. And this comes down to our conditioning over the past experiences that we've had. So, do you struggle then to speak effectively and calmly you know, and that's how it really gets us, doesn't it? When we get that feeling, we are really overwhelmed in that moment. And we're either going to project, we're either going to, shut down, withdraw, or we're going to freeze and we're not going to be able to communicate. And I had a client of mine that would literally physically shake in that moment because their nerves were so triggered. And they had no control over this. And they came to me and said, Maria, I physically shake and I'm trembling when I'm trying to speak. What is going on? So let's have a look at that. So your prefrontal cortex, if I can get my words out, prefrontal cortex is your logical part of the brain. This does all your processing, your rational thinking. It helps you make wise decisions and not do silly things. And then you've got the limbic system, which is your emotional processing, your fight or flight activation. And then you've got the survival responses as well in the brainstem. So when you get angry, this floods your system and your prefrontal cortex is literally like your Wi-Fi in a house. It goes offline and then your survival brain takes over. Now, there is a way there is a way to overcome this and regain and go back online, and switch back on the prefrontal cortex. It's being able to be aware. Self-awareness will change everything for you. But typically, what you're doing at the moment is you're going offline and then you're running from your emotions. So you're saying things that you later regret. You're doing things that you later regret. And understanding this, I hope it's really helping you because if I just sat here and said, oh, well, when you get angry, just stop, when you get frustrated, just decide that you're going to not do this today. It's not going to help. It's not going to change anything for you. And that's why people with good intentions, they have really, really good intentions to change can't because they don't understand why they do what they do. So I hope this information is going a little bit deep, but I hope it's really helping you understand exactly why you're doing what you're doing at the moment. So let's look at the power of the pause. And I want to share this with you because this is a science-backed framework and it's not it's not actually what I teach, but I thought that I would bring it in because I feel that it's a really powerful tool. Now, there's a neuroscience scientist, Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor, and she discovered that when we get triggered and we get angry and frustrated and we're in that tense moment, that there's a lifespan of 90 seconds, you know, if we can pause. So this framework is to notice, recognize that you're activated, you're triggered, naming, so saying, I'm angry right now, I'm frustrated right now, I'm overwhelmed right now, and pausing and take space before responding. I'm really being intentional and mindful of the fact that you've noticed you've been triggered, you know what you're feeling, and pause, and then choose how to respond. And it's a tool, as I say, from neuroscientist Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor. I wanted to share this with you as an extra tool for you to take away, just because I feel it's really powerful as well. You can use breathing to calm down. So there's box breathing, there's deep inhales, and there's belly breathing as well. So have a look at some of these breathing techniques and even practice, try practicing now before you go on to the next slide. Practice now and just pause the video because what I would say to you is when we change our physiology, we change our state. So we get to do that through breathing. So I want you to try some of these before you move forward. Pause the video and I will see you in the next section where we're going to look at reframing your thoughts. And reframing is an NLP tool that I share, and I use this a lot. We go a lot deeper on screen framework in terms of using NLP tools and strategies. But this is just a simple one that can use, but it might be simple, but it's very, very powerful. Unhelpful thoughts. They're doing this on purpose. We can reframe that too. They might be struggling too. They might have stuff going on. They don't care about me. Their behavior might be about their stress, not me. This always happens. This is one moment. It's not a pattern. I can't handle this. I can handle difficult feelings. They're being unreasonable. We both have valid perspectives. Now, when we reframe, we're not changing the situation. And this is really powerful to understand. So in NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, we don't we don't change the reality when we're reframing. We acknowledge it, but we give it a different perspective. So we're looking at a situation, but we've just given it a new frame. And that changes how we connect with someone. It also changes how we feel as well. Because when we focus on whatever we focus on, we're going to feel, we're going to get, we're going to experience. So if we focus on the negative, that's what we're going to believe, that's what we're going to feel. But when we reframe it with something positive, it changes the dynamics of that situation. So it's a really useful tool for you to use. And I really hope this helps you. And on the screen framework, we deep dive and do a lot of reframing. But we've only got a short amount of time on here. So, but this is a really good tool to use, and you can use this in any context in your life as well. It doesn't have to be in terms of relationships. It's, maybe it's in your work or it's in your business, and you know, maybe you had a telephone call and it wasn't positive. Instead of thinking, I'm no good on the phone, I should have said this, I should have done that, you can reframe it to, this was a lesson to show me how to improve my communication. You see how different that hits? And it goes from negative to empowering. So, excuse me. I hope that helps. Excuse me. So, our response versus reaction. If we're reactive, we respond from our unconscious mind. We are driven by emotion, and we often make things worse, and we often regret what we say. When we have a response, we're calm and intentional, we're conscious, we're going to, give an empowering, we're going to feel empowered, and we're going to share that to the other person. We're going to share wisdom. We're going to be calm and intentional with our communication. And it's having that space between the trigger and where how we respond is where the power lies. And this is why emotional regulation is so powerful. Now, some of you might be familiar with me and have seen a lot of my YouTube work, or you might be part of my Facebook group already, or if you're not, I will share with you the link. But I talk about emotional regulation buys you a window of time. It gets you because you're always going to get triggered. If our brains are wired to be on alert for what's right and what's not, what's wrong. So if our brains are wired that we can't avoid being triggered, but we can get intentional about how we show up. We can have that window where we get to ask ourselves, what is the outcome here? What do I want to happen? Do I want to lose connection or build connection? And that's so very powerful. And that is honestly, that is the only difference between somebody that can control their emotions and somebody that can't. They just lean in and pause and think before they respond. I'm going to share with you a story. Now, I also work with parents of teens as well, to help them pretty much do exactly what we're doing on here, but it's a parent and teen dynamic. So this is a guy called Jason, father of two. I used to explode at my teenage son over the smallest things, the messy room, not doing their homework, just a general teenage attitude. And one day I felt that rage really, boiling up in me. And this was Jason sharing. And he said, I'm going to go outside and cool down. And he was able to step outside and regulate how he was showing up. And this was the first step, big step that he took. And he did the breathing exercises and realized that his anger was never about what his son had or hadn't done. It was about he was stressed with work and he didn't know how to manage his emotions. He didn't know that he could be in control of his emotions. Now, a lot of how he's showing up, he's learnt patterns. And because we've experienced life so very differently, it shows up differently for us. But those life experience will gauge how we're showing up in life. It's not that you're a bad person or, Jason is a bad dad. It's none of that. It's just that he's got learned patterns and we just have to learn how to shift those. So let's have a look at the takeaway from all this training. You can't control what happens to you. I haven't been able to control the really tough year I've had this year. Well, I get to choose how I respond, how I show up. I get to choose if I stay in control of my emotions or not. So doing the work for you is absolutely gold. It's completely changed my life, my relationships. I've got 5 children. Most now, 3 of them are adults, and one's just about to be an adult. And then I've got a teenage son as well. And I didn't start my parenting knowing any of this, but I did go on to learn it through research, through investment in myself, through self-development. And I saw how this completely changed my life. And that's where the screen framework was born. And it did start with the dynamics with my teenage daughter, who is now, a mum herself. So we can take, if I can learn this with everything that was going on for me, being a busy mum, at the time, I was a social worker as well, stressful job, with a husband that literally lived overseas for his work. So literally, I was on my own a lot with the children. You can do it too. This is not rocket science. This is about making a conscious decision to show up and be the best that you can in all your relationships. So let's look at transformation. So right now, you can move from anger to understanding. You can move from isolation to having an intimate, positive, strong relationship. You get to choose. You get to choose if you want to do the work. You've got some tools. You've got some reframing. You've got the reframing NLP tool. You have got how to communicate, why communicate can break down. So you've got all the tools, everything you need for effective communication. Now, if you want to kind of like deep dive, we'll have a look at that in a bit, but let's go on to some questions for reflection and discussion. So have a look at what communication trap you fall into most. You know, do you blame? Do you do think they can mind read? Do you do the kitchen sinking, bringing up all the old things that, the old mistakes that the person made? Or do you give the silent treatment? Recognize your pattern. What are your early warning signs? Is it you feel a physical tension? Do you feel raging thoughts? Do you get, do you have a feeling in the pit of your stomach? And what would be different in your closest relationship if you could stay calm during conflict? Have a think about that. You know, I want to say thank you for showing up and getting here on the training because when we choose to look and reflect at who we are, our behaviors, it takes an awful amount of courage to, you know, to show up and be vulnerable and step into the arena of wanting to have change. So the fact that you're here and you're learning these skills shows, that you have a deep love and respect for the people in your life right now. So I can't thank you enough for for showing up and being here. It's really important that you recognize that and you give yourself a tap on the shoulder too to say, actually, yeah, I've stepped into the arena of change and I'm ready for change right now. So, transforming your relationship with the screen, masterclass. Now you're here because you're either the person that projects anger, frustration, or conflict, or you're the person that is on the other end of receiving that as well. And it's time to learn some powerful, evidence, science-backed tools and strategies that are really going to change the dynamics of your relationship and for good as well. So I'm really excited to introduce you to the screen framework, and it's a proven NLP based framework, and that's helped hundreds of people now. And my background is in social work as well. So in terms of the people that I've helped over the years, I'm going back many, many, many years. And this is so very powerful. And so a little bit about me, I'll keep it short. So I'm a communication and mindset coach, and I've over 17 years of experience in the social work arena and just helping families and individuals navigate their worst challenging moments. So, as a certified NLP practitioner and licensed therapist, I'm trained in multiple based therapeutic approaches, and I specialize in communication. That's where my expertise is, and teaching emotional intelligence, which I'm so passionate about. um that I've helped so many people in this area and in their relationships as well. And my unique approach, and I feel it is a unique approach because I go deep into psychology to help people really understand themselves, really understand why they're behaving the way that they do. So it's not just surface level. We go deep because I truly believe, and you may have heard me say this before, if you can teach somebody exactly why they behave the way they do, they then get in the driving seat of their life because everything makes sense and they can really implement the tools and strategies that they've used then. Everything's science backed. I give transformation, not information. So, I'm really excited to share this screen framework with you. And I have a proven track record. So I've helped hundreds of individuals now. And this is my passion. This is what I love to do. And I know it works and it's so powerful. And I always guarantee my work. I always guarantee my work. And I've witnessed firsthand how somebody can go from really struggling and really struggling to manage those emotions to being calm and intentional. And when I say it's a beautiful transition, seeing that and knowing that you're responsible for that is truly, truly empowering because it really, really, that doesn't just change that relationship. It changes every relationship, every dynamic in that person's life, which then has a domino effect to how the people that they love and how they engage with, how they learn to respond and react. And our children, we are our children's biggest role models. So if you have children, you get to change the the life course for them in terms of how they communicate, how they show up. Because it's really, really exciting stuff. So as I said at the start, the screen framework is 6 steps. We go through self-awareness, communication. And when I say communication, we are going deep. We all the work is we're going deep into communication. You're going to be aware of all the ways that um you verbalize, you communicate. So we'll be looking at the language we've touched on a little bit now. You're going to look at your tonality. You're going to look at all the areas, including your body language, and how we can work on that. Make sure that you're congruent whenever you show up, whenever you speak, whether that's in an exchange to one or in a room of 100. It doesn't matter. You get to be in full in control of how you're showing up. Regulation, you get in the driving seat of your life. You're no longer reactive. You're in full control of your emotions and how you project to others and how they receive you. And that's going to save you a number of your relationships, I'm sure. Empathy, having empathy for yourself. There's a quote by Maya Angelou, and she says, do the best you know until you can do better. So we can only do as good as we know. But when we have the tools, we then can improve how we show up. So it's not beating yourself up, it's about stepping into yourself and realizing that it's important to have empathy for you and empathy for your loved ones and the people around you that are important to you, understanding them as well. Because in NLP, and you'll learn all about this in the screen framework, NLP is about, the map is not the territory, meaning that the way that we see life, the way that we see and experience a situation is not necessarily fact. It's just the lens that we're looking through it. So it's important that you can we can reframe, as I say, why we do the reframing, because when we change the lens, we get to change how we show up and how we feel as well. We get to master our emotions, which is emotional mastery. This is where you get in a driving seat. You understand all the emotions that are showing up for you, and you get to understand them. You get to understand why you behave the way you do and how you can shift the thoughts, the behaviors that don't serve you. And then you get to build these healthy new connections that are gonna stay a lifetime, that are gonna build and be strong. And this is so empowering because you can use this in your personal relationship, but you can use it in every single area of your life, which is really, really powerful. So, why does this matter? Why is it the right time now? Well, if we're in a dynamic that's not serving us, we're going to lose trust. We're going to create distance. The constant patterns of arguments and the silent treatment is just going to build tension. And we're going to regret. We're going to lose relationships. We're going to experience that person's had enough because at some point, enough is enough. So it's time to do the work. It's time to step in the arena of change. And what better time, to do it than now, you know, when we're aware. Now, I hope this training has made you aware of exactly, where you are right now and what needs to shift. So let's have a look what you'll gain from the screen framework. We've just gone over what we're going to do. Let's have a look what it's going to give you. It's going to give you control in heated moments, challenging moments, and situations where, you find yourself in a deep place. Now, I can share with you, and I don't mind sharing with you. This year has been one of the toughest years. In fact, it has been the toughest year of my life. If I didn't have the tools and strategies that I have, and many people have said to me, Maria, how have you got through all this? And I said that I've had to use every tool in my tool bag that I have to keep moving, to keep serving people, to keep showing up for my clients, even during the time when I knew I was losing my dad, that he was dying, even when I'm back and forth to the hospital with my mom because she's had a big bleed on the brain. And how do you just step into delivering and being able to do the work and show up and have everything going on because I've got these tools and strategies. It's a game changer, it's a life changer. It puts you in full control how you show up. and how we experience life as well. And it's going to give you the tools and strategies to stay calm when you need to. It's going to save your relationships. It's going to connect you closer to the most important people in your life. People are going to recognize the shift in you and say, wow, something's changed, but I'm not quite sure what's changed. Something has changed for Sarah. Something has changed for Mark. They're showing up differently. That's because you did the work. So this is going to give you the power to understand your psychology, to understand why you behave exactly the way that you do. Not only that, you're going to get the tools to kind of take control when you're feeling overwhelmed and triggered. You're going to have the breathing exercises. You're going to have a range of exercises to take away, not just the breathing work. I'm going to give you everything in my bag so you can really do the work and show up. Because I know if I hadn't done this work for me, I question where my relationships would be right now. I really, really do. And I can't emphasize that enough. So I can't stress for you right now. You've got an opportunity here to really play full out and do the work. Now, if you want to work with me, if you want to have a chat with me and tell me your situation, I won't work with anybody that I've not spoken to and found out a little bit because I guarantee my results. I guarantee you a shift and change. If I have a conversation with you and I don't think that you're ready, then I will tell you that. If I don't think that you're going to get the most out of the screen framework, I will I will share that with you and I will say, you know, that this is not right now. You need to work on this and then you can come back. So if you want to book blueprint transformational call with me, that's to me to understand you and you to understand me even more, then you can book a call. And it's on the slide, it's https colon forward dash calendly.com forward dash msmith223. And you can just tap that in and it will give you an opportunity to book a call with me. I do calls on a Wednesday because I'm exceptionally busy. I do have free slots available at any given time because I like to create an intimate group. I work with an intimate group of people so I can massively over deliver, massively, engage with them. It's not where there's a number of people on the call and you don't get a chance to speak. That's unfair. And that's not what I'm about. I'm about delivering results that will change your life. So if you are interested, um, use that link to get in touch. And you know, what can I say? Well, thank you. Thank you for showing up and being your true, authentic self and recognizing that there is an area that needs change, that needs a shift. If you want to chat with me, find out more about my work, just book a call. As I say, it's every Wednesday, and you can do that. And before I go, thank you. Thank you again for just taking this first step. And if you don't want to book a call with me, that's fine. You now have access to this training. You can repeat this as many times as you want to, as you need to. So you have got no excuse for not doing the work. You can replay this as many times as you want. And I really hope that you do play full out. I really hope you do the exercises. I really hope that you take on board everything that I've said, and that in 12 months' time, when you look back, you think, I'm so glad I did the work. I'm so glad I played full out. I'm so glad I connected with Maria. Thank you so much, and I will see you soon. Take care. And before I go, sorry, I'm going to drop the links for the to book a call as well with this. You'll also get the Facebook group. You're very welcome to be there. So you've got access to my training, to my YouTube channel as well, where you can resonate even more with me and connect with me even more on the platforms. Take care. Bye bye.